What's your major? Great question. You're going to answer that one a lot once you get into college if you're not already there. And most of you are going to pick the wrong thing. So turns out there's a statistic that over 70% of the people who finish with a college degree, a four-year degree in the United States, do not use it in their career or their job. So they went through all of that trouble, all of that expense, and came out the backside and have nothing to show for it in terms of career development. So it's a very expensive experience to go through, and a lot to go through if it's not really facilitating you having a better career path where you make more money, you love what you do, and all the things that most of us assume it's going to support us in when we choose that major. So what I want to explore is what are the ways that you can assure that you pick a major and a career path that will make you happy, that you can love what you're doing, and if it doesn't do that, it still gets you really close to where it's a very small pivot or shift to get you there. To me, a four-year degree should be the beginning of something much bigger. For what it costs and all the energy we spend doing it, and I have done it, took me 7.5 years, there is a much better way to do it than I did. My daughters did a much better job of it. And what I want to share with you are some of the strategies for doing that in a much less painful way than I ever did. And more importantly, that your outcome is to end up in a career that you love and that your college experience supported you and moved you further towards that. So that those 4 years have much higher value than they do for most people. It's not a lot to ask, but it's pretty telling that only 30% of the people who finish with a college degree can say they even use that degree in their job, much less love what they do with it. So let's get into it. These are 7 ways that will help you succeed in choosing a major and ultimately a career path that you really love. Number 1, define your outcome clearly. So a lot of people would say, well, I'm going to go to college so that when I get out, I can have a job. And hopefully one I like. But most people see college nowadays, when you talk to them, they don't seem that clear about what they really think it's buying them in life. And obviously, if they're willing to finish the whole process and then pick a job that's not even related to that major, they weren't that clear on the outcome when they went in. So here's an example of an outcome. I want to finish with a degree in architecture and then become an architect. Okay. So here's a better and clearer outcome. I want to finish in 5 years with a degree in architecture from Cal Poly University in San Luis Obispo, California. I want to start off making at least $60,000 a year and preferably $70,000 a year minimum. I want 2 weeks paid off vacation. I want to work in the Bay Area near my family. And I don't want to have more than $30,000 in college debt. And I want to have my own apartment. I don't want to have to share, and I don't want to have to live at home. I want my own apartment and to be able to afford a lifestyle that I am happy with. And I want to really love what I'm doing. That's a clearly defined outcome. And the reason it's so important is because every time we make a decision about classes, about partying, about roommates, about what we can afford to live, how we can afford to live in college, about during the summer, should I do an internship or should I just mess around and travel with my friends, slack off at home? Every time you make one of those decisions, it's referencing what you say your target is. The outcome is the target for your life. It's only 5, 6 years out in this case, okay? But to have a clear outcome helps all of your decisions get easier. And you'll know what the right thing to do is when you have a clear sense of where it is you're heading. Because your brain's going to say, that's taking us in the wrong direction, or that's taking us towards our target. It's that simple. So the clearer the outcome, the clearer all your decision making becomes all the way through. When I was in landscape architecture at Cal Poly, I had a great group of friends that I started with, but they partied a lot. I couldn't afford to. I was working my way through school. The number of times that I had to say no to them, it was a drag, straight up a drag. But I couldn't afford to do it. Secondly, I couldn't spend the number of hours they did on projects. I had to live with C's and B's on my projects because I literally couldn't put in the hours that other people could because I was working. So the point is, my outcome, which I ended up getting, which is to graduate in a certain amount of time and love what I do, I got that outcome. But it made all of those decisions that are part of your college experience a lot clearer for me, even when they were really hard ones. And that's why a clear outcome is the first place to start, because it makes everything else more clear to you in terms of what you should do or not do. Number 2, this is huge. Why? Why am I doing this? Why am I choosing this college major? Why am I ultimately choosing this career path? So for me, your why is pretty much all of it. At the end of the day, you can change what the target is. If you find out something about yourself and you realize, that wasn't the right thing for me, you change your target, your outcome. But your why is an expression of who you are. You'll stay invested in stuff big time for amazing things if you have a big enough why. And ultimately, it's an expression of what matters most to you. It's your human needs or your psychological needs, your belief system, your values, and your identity. And we'll have other videos that get into those because they're dense ideas, but they're so important that they need more time devoted to them. But ultimately, when you understand what those things are for you, then you get very clear on why you will or won't do a thing. And so you start with what matters most to you in life, for what you know now, and then is the why you're going to do this thing congruent with and aligned with who you are? Because going all the way through college is hard. You're going to be challenged all the time because it's new information, you're learning new things about what to do and how to do it, and you're learning things about yourself. And that's uncomfortable a lot of the time. But if you have a strong enough why you're going to stay in the game, then you can see it through. If you don't, you won't. That's why over half of the people who start college in the United States don't finish in 6 years, if at all. Okay? Their why isn't big enough. I can't keep spending all this money. I can't keep taking these hard classes. I feel stupid because I'm getting low grades. I can't stand my roommate. I can't stand being lonely because I miss the people back home. You better have some strong whys when all that stuff shows up. So why is a lot. If you think of the target, the outcome as the target, the why is the fuel to get you moving and keep you moving towards the target. If you have a weak why, you're going to fall short. You are not going to make it to your target. So the why is incredibly important. It's like the fuel in your car on a long journey. Okay, so getting your why very clear and have a powerful one, the bigger the better, because that's like your fuel tank. And as long as you've got a lot of fuel in the tank, you'll be all right. Number 3, taste what you're about to dive into. So that might not be the most elegant way to put it, but here's what I mean. let's say I decide or I think I want to be a landscape architect. So very interesting, I am a landscape architect, and I use this example because I had two people while I was a landscape architect call me up and say, hey, I'm an engineer, hey, I'm a sales rep for, a phone company, and I'm thinking I'm going to change careers. And I'm looking at landscape architecture. Would you spend some time talking to me? And I am all over that. I'm like, absolutely. I love helping people. I love what I do. And if this is right for them, I want to help them understand that. So I met with them. And these are people who already have a degree in engineering and one in business. And they've been working in those fields and they're burnt out. They don't like them. They want out. So my thing is why wouldn't you do that before you go to college, before you choose a major? So if you're already in school and you're watching this, or you're about to go to school, number 3 is taste what you think you're about to dive into before you ever go there. You should interview people like me. If you think you want to be a landscape architect, call up 3 landscape architects, and if all you do is talk to them on the phone, talk to them on the phone. Do everything you can to get a serious taste of what it would be like to be in that profession. Because the worst thing possible is what they went through. They went through all the education. They went through all the expense. They did all of that. And they didn't want to do it anymore. The problem is they both had debt. They both could not afford to stop their lives and go back to school and study a new thing. The person who was in business, she ultimately ended up as a landscape architect, but she did a certificate program that was abbreviated because she had to keep working because that's all she could do. My point is that's what she should have done before she ever went to business school. So try and get some way of doing an internship, being somebody's shadow, interview them, all of the above. Find a way to get a good taste of what it is that career is about. And not just one person. It's got to be multiple, because their personality, the way they express it, their experience, their particular niche inside that profession is going to be unique to them. The more samplings you can get, the more reality of what's possible inside that career, and you'll find out if something speaks to you from there. Because if you're going to invest 4 years and all the money it's going to take to study a thing, how much is it worth for you to go through that exercise to talk to people who already lived the life you say you want to live? Because if you bump up against people who are the right ones and it's the right fit for you, you're going to come in there and your why just got way bigger, right? We already talked about why, but if the fuel is because I met somebody who already does it and everything they told me really resonated with me, that's golden. That's a big deal. So if that's more than you already have, it's a lot more. If it tells you that's not the right thing, keep looking, huge value. The problem is that too many people take classes in college as if that's some way to sample this stuff. It is not. I'm sorry, but I've taken lots of college classes. I've taken a lot of classes outside of college. That is not a good view into what it is to live in that world and do it as a career, unless you want to be an academic and you want to teach. And so this is very, very important. And I would tell you it's one of the most eye-opening things you can do before you spend all the money on a college degree. So that's taste this thing before you do it, whatever that major or whatever that career is. And the other thing is and this is true for all of this, this is not an all or nothing thing. You do not need to nail this. You want to get as much information to inform your mind as to the subtleties and the really clear pieces of whether something is right for you. You do not need to nail this. I am not saying this in any of these videos. you do the most you can. But some of this is just real obvious, and it's amazing how few people even do the obvious ones that are obvious to me anyway, and a lot of other people. So again, don't feel like you have to get this perfect, but it's all new information that will give you more reference points for what could work for you. And that's really the point of the exercise. Number 4 is strategy. So this video is giving you a strategy. It's giving you 7 different ways to succeed, okay? But a great example for choosing the right major, and then also how to get, finish your major in a certain amount of time, say 4 or 5 years, whatever your degree calls for, is what is your strategy from A to Z, all the things you know you need to think about to accomplish this degree. But not just the degree, but to prepare yourself for this career path that you're choosing by choosing that major. So here's what I mean. If my daughter went to school and the freshman year there was such an issue with people graduating in 5 years or more that the school said incoming freshmen need some help with their strategy for graduating in 4 years. They make them take a course, and the only point of the course is in order to get credit for it, you have to turn in your strategy for graduating in 4 years. It's that big of a deal. You haven't had to think strategically on this scale before, and they understand that. So what I'm saying is I actually think what they did at that school is what you should do. What is your strategy for graduating in 4 years? Once you choose a major, well, so what is your strategy for choosing the major? That's what this video is all about, okay? Do these exercises. At the end of this, you should write each one of these numbers down, and you should fill in what you know so far. But it will also tell you what you don't know so far and what you need to get active on so you can feel confident that you have your 7 different things filled in and you prepared strategically. So this video is really the framework for the strategy to define the right major for you and ultimately the right career path. But strategy in anything, because even being successful getting through college, this isn't just choosing your right major, but it's getting through, is what are the steps, and in what order do those steps and in what time frame do they all need to happen for you to finish in 4 years, for instance? If you say I want to make $70,000 a year when I walk out of college, what is part of that strategy? You research what the career is, what is the pay range for that career, and if you need to be at the higher range, what would you have to do to be hireable at the higher range? Maybe you need 2 years of internship when you graduate. These are the types of things that should become part of your strategy. There's a reason why one person can walk out the back door with a degree and they can start at $70,000 a year with 4 weeks of vacation a year, and another person is starting at $50,000 a year with 2 weeks. How's that happen? They have the same degree. What happens is their strategy and what they walk out and their value to the marketplace are night and day because one had a different strategy than the other one. Ultimately, that's what happened there. On the surface, they can look very similar, but employers know what they value and what they'll put money on. And part of your strategy should be, how do I become the person that starts my career coming out of school at a higher trajectory? I'm already up here when I launch. That just gives you a much higher trajectory, but that takes strategy. So that's the importance of strategy. Ultimately, people who are very successful in life are strategic about a lot of their decision making, and that's one of the best things you can do is be a strategist about how you do virtually anything that has big consequences in your life. Number 5, skills and tools. So here's a great example of skills and tools. My older daughter studied interior design, and part of interior design is you interact with architects, sometimes engineers, sometimes landscape architects, and so we all use a software called CAD. It's the base platform for computer-aided design. And there are a lot of variations on that now, but the point is that in order to work in the workplace, you need to know CAD or some variation of CAD. Another thing that's very helpful is 3D rendering. And I don't know how to do that very well. I can do basics, but I really never learned it because when I came out of school, it didn't exist. So, some young person who's studying interior design, like my daughter, if she learns 3D rendering, if she learns CAD, which are not required for her degree, by the way, but they're advisable, she can do better projects for school, and she walks out the door making more money than her peers because she has these skills that are highly valued in the workplace, and they're more than just the base degree. Does that make sense? The tools, she has an iMac and she has the software to run it. So yes, that's an investment, but that investment in those tools allowed her to develop the skills and also do her projects. She was in control of that while she was in school in a way that somebody who didn't have that stuff wasn't. Okay? So it was all part of her bigger strategy, which is learn faster because I have my own tools to do that, and when I come out of school, I'll be worth more. So skills and tools should be factored into your strategy, for what it is you're studying. Another big one is internships. Whenever you can, whether you're still in school, whether it's paid, unpaid, whether it's summers, internships are incredibly valuable to the workplace. They help they help the employers understand that you know how to work in a real work environment, that you've tested it and you still want to be there. We want to know that before we invest in you as an employer. And so that's a huge skill development thing. Because a lot of what you learn in school is not skill development, whereas working in the workplace part-time is. So those are examples of skills and tools and why they're so important as part of your overall strategy. Because ultimately, the education is one thing, but you need to know how to do certain things when you go to work. And the more of those things that you already know how to do when you come out of school, the more you're worth coming out of school. That's why somebody can be worth so much more coming out of school than another student. Okay, so that's skills and tools. Number 6 is mindset. So mindset is, where's your head? The best example I can think of is professional athletes. You think of Tiger Woods standing over a putt, and if he makes it, he wins the golf tournament and he wins $500,000. And if he misses it, he goes into sudden death and he could lose the whole thing to another person. Or a basketball player, and he needs to make this free throw for them to win the national championship in college basketball. Okay? So very heady stuff, right? This is where's your head at, where's your mind? You're about to enter the most uncertain part of your life. Everything is new practically. You're learning how to learn on an adult level. You're learning how to make your own choices because you haven't had to in a lot of ways. You're learning to manage your adult life and think about the consequences and what you think about all that. You're developing your own value system and your own beliefs and all these other things. It's a big deal. So having your head right about what's coming and how you'll react to it is your mindset. So really, it's like having your game face on before you step into this arena. The thing is this is a long game. It's 4 to 5 years for most of you. So having your head right is a big deal. And, when I was in school, we really wrestled with this because it is so new to you. You realize you're just dealing with all these things you've never had to deal with before. So this relates strongly to the next thing, which is support. And support is, do I have a friend? Do I have family? Do I have a mentor? Do I have a shrink? somebody to talk to about how things are going for me. And that will affect your mindset. So mindset's really important, that you feel certain about why you're doing something and how you're going to do it, and that you know that if stuff comes up, you can handle that. Okay, that's the right kind of mindset. If you feel really hesitant and uncertain and you're not very good at dealing with those types of things, then to me this reacts again to support. Then know that about yourself and find out a way to be supported when you need it, because that's why these are all part of the same list. If any one of these is missing in a major way, it can be the one thing that knocks you off the path. There's a reason that over half of the people who start college in the United States don't finish ever, or at least within the first 6 years. And so, you know, any one of these things can be that reason. So mindset at the end of the day can really mess with us. You know, there's a lot of different ways to have your head messed with when you're in school. It can be, am I in the right major? What do I do with this relationship with my weird roommate? People at home aren't calling me anymore. It can be all kinds of things. And so having your head right is really important before you step into this, because it's a big commitment and it takes a lot of time. It's a big journey. And that leads us to number 7, support. So 2 main types of support. One, psychological, which for me, if you're used to kind of taking care of yourself, then this isn't as big. I was a lot like that, but I have to say that my friends at school became my biggest support system the years I was there. But for whatever it is for you, whether that's your family, whether it's friends, whether it's your church, whether it's your new friends you're going to make while you're at school, support's incredibly important. Anytime you're going through this much new stuff, you're going to need somebody to talk to about it and to feel like they give you some moral support, you know. And so make sure you're shored up there. You know, a lot of people who go away to school, they join fraternities or sororities. And one of the big reasons they do that is because it becomes their support system. They know they're stepping into a very new situation, but fraternities and sororities have built-in support, which is you have people who are upperclassmen and women who know the game. And you get this certainty like, oh, they know what's going on, and they coach you. They basically say, here's this professor to avoid, and here's what we'll do to support you in studying, and here's a way that, you know, you can have this community that's part of this fraternity or sorority. So that's just one example of how people find that support system when they're in this new situation, which is college. The other big one, which is the single biggest reason why people drop out of college, is financial support. Most people start the journey undercapitalized. They don't have enough money or know how they're going to finish the game with the finances. And so that happened to me to some degree. The hardest times for me were the finances. I got loans, I got grants, and I worked. And I primarily paid for it with work. But many people start into school because there's this time window happening, but they really aren't in a good position financially, and they start the journey probably sooner than they should have before they worked out the finances. So, you know, make sure that the support system financially is in place, however you do that, whether it's family, whether it's loans, any of those resources, you've got those in place as part of your overall strategy, because it is the single biggest reason people fail, and it's actually the single biggest reason people succeed. Something like 75% of students who start 1 or 2 years after high school finish their degree if they have financial support from their family. Okay, so that tells you how important it is to finishing. I mean, that's a very high percentage of people who finish just because of that one difference, which is the financial support from family. So support, psychologically, morally, and financially, very important part of why you're going to succeed on your journey through picking the right major and getting through college. So those are our 7 ways or keys to succeeding in picking the right college major that leads you to the right career path that you love. They're not guarantees, there aren't any, but they're a great start and they're a great framework. So if you use this as a reference point and you're having a hard time, this is a really good thing to have in writing that you can look down like a scoreboard and say, okay, what's going on right now? And you're like, oh, I'm really having a hard time with my major. I don't know that this is the right major for me. Look at this strategy here and ask yourself, well, which one of these things, if any, is missing from me? I guarantee you it will be one or more of those that are something's missing or it's too weak. And then you'll know what to aim at. But a lot of times it just doesn't feel very clear. And what lists like this and a strategy like this does for people who use them all the time is it's a quick reference point to remind us of what's important, okay? And if this is a new idea for you as a young person, this is a really good start, because honestly, what I just gave you is the framework for succeeding at anything complicated in life. So whether it's choosing your major, whether it's choosing a spouse, whether it's choosing a new job, this is really important, because these are things that all support us succeeding in life. And they're pretty universal at the end of the day. And yes, you can get by not having 1 or 2 of these being very strong, but ultimately, the more you have of each of these that are in place and solid, the more successful you're going to be in choosing that major that's right for you. I hope this video helped. This whole series is here to help people who are trying to select the right major and ultimately the right career path for themselves. There'll be a lot of other videos associated with this one. If you liked it, please give us a like and subscribe. And also share it. If you know somebody who's also trying to figure out their major, their career path, please share these with those folks, and hopefully it will help them in some way as well. I'll be producing some more videos to go along with this, and as I mentioned earlier, the needs, the beliefs, the values, and the identity are things we're going to spend some time on, because they're so critical to figuring out what's the most important thing to you, so that you know what things are going to support that in your career path. So look for those, and until the next video, take care and make it an amazing life.